All right, good morning, San Diego. Welcome to another podcast. I'm so excited to be doing this off-site. We're doing this a little differently. Usually we do it at our podcast studio, but today we're at 3 and 1, which is this cool place in Chula Vista, and I'm sure we're gonna hear about it later. But let me quickly introduce my special guest today. To my right, Erick Alvizures. Erick is going to talk about. He's a small business owner, so I'll let you talk about that. And I'm honored to have Councilmember Jill Galvez, council member with the city of Chula Vista, joining us. And to her right, Joe Frausto. I hope I got that right, Joe. Right? You can. And then Joe will talk about his business. And to Joe's right, Mr. Ammar Campa-Najjar, who is in the race for city of Chula Vista mayoral race. So we'll get to hear from him. And to his right, at the other end, Mr. Erick Hernandez, the owner of 3 and 1. Rick, thank you for having us here. So we'll have you talk about your business here. So, but before we get started, I want to throw some numbers at you, and I want to get your reaction, right? And for those of you that are not from San Diego, if you're watching, we're in the city of Chula Vista. And from what I understand, as of 2015, we had just over 9,100 small businesses in the city. But that number actually declined a couple of years later. Any of you want to react to that? Give me your response, why that is. Any thoughts on that? Councilmember Galvez, any thoughts on why you think?
We're all trying to be polite.
About why there was a
Like,
decline
why
in small
do you feel there was a
business?
decline of
From-
number of businesses in the city of Chula Vista versus going the other direction?
That's a very good question, and I'm glad you're presenting this so that maybe that's something we can talk about. That's something that I hadn't been aware of, and it's disappointing to hear. I know that a lot of folks that start small businesses have challenges with financing, with other life responsibilities. Starting a small business is not easy. You have to, there's a lot to consider. It's different than just being an employee. It requires a different skill set. It requires funding and financing for the long haul. And it requires a lot of personal sacrifice. And so I can imagine, speaking as a woman, many female small businesses have issues when it comes to childcare, when it comes to the typical support structures that maybe other folks take for granted in networking, or the ability to get things done during family time. Typically, a lot of that responsibility falls on the back of the woman, and so I've never had to start a real complex small business, and I admire those the folks here today that have done so. But I'm sure that they can tell you some horror stories about some times that maybe when they first were starting out, perhaps they faced closure at some point, and that very real scary possibility. But it's very, just to circle back to your question, I don't know why there was a decline. That's very disappointing, and I hope that we can reverse that trend.
And we're gonna get into that because this is really a forward-thinking conversation. But I wanted to put that out there to get you to start thinking, because this conversation is all about small business. So, Erick, tell us a little about your businesses that you own in Chula Vista. How long have you owned it? And then we'll go around the table and get into the business conversation.
Sure. We own Barbershop Heaven, downtown Chula Vista. We opened up our doors about 10 years. Actually, last month we turned 10 years. That was our first location. And ever since, we've opened multiple locations. We also just opened up an ice cream shop next to our barbershop. It's called Sweet Life. And it's just a very cool atmosphere, very cool place to have a business right now at Third Avenue. I'm excited. I was there 10 years ago when there was nothing. There was the gym, and people were just excited to have a barber shop, and the community received us well. And so it's thriving now. So I just love what's happening in downtown Chula Vista. It's just a cool place. It's hip. It's cool. Cool haircuts. Great atmosphere. You could have your baby all the way to your grandpa come in and feel welcome. So we love that we get to offer different services, different vibes, and just be able to serve our community.
Fantastic. And of course, we heard from Councilmember Joe Galvez. I'm going to come back to you because I want to hear more about what it's like, the life of a council member, day in, day out. So we're going to talk about that. And then, Joe, tell us about your business, what you do, and your take on small business.
I'm going to look this way because of the mic. But, the perception that you mentioned, one of the reasons why I decided to start the company here, and I'll explain a little bit, try to go quickly on what we're doing. I wanted to change the perception and how they see Chula Vista. A lot of people, when I told them I was starting a tech company in Chula Vista, they said, why Chula Vista, right? Why not start it in where everybody's at, right, in San Diego? I actually had first some companies up in Carlsbad, so northern San Diego. I actually went to Eastlake High School, and I believe that if I can build something massive, everything starts small, but if I can do it, then we can actually help the city change that perception, right? So I wanted to create something binational, so being close to Mexico helped. So the company started a little bit over 3.5 years ago. We are creating technology to enable basically a platform that simplifies construction. Anybody that's done construction, it always takes longer, it always costs more. We happened to stumble into the housing shortage situation with ADUs and everything that's happening. So we saw that it was very complex to go through the whole thing, from permitting to financing, et cetera. So we decided to make it, our mission is to make it as simple as ordering pizza in your phone. It's getting closer and closer as we go. We actually became the largest ADU developer in San Diego within 9 months.
Joe, tell us what ADU stands for.
Sure, it's an additional dwelling unit, right? So
Like a granny flat? Some people may know it as a granny
flat. So if you have a backyard, you can build a unit there. With SB9, you can actually do a lot split now and actually build a full-on home, right? There's in California, they're stating they need about 1.5 million more units. The only way to really accomplish it is by being able to enable the homeowner to do it. And homeowners are not developers, right? So we understood the complexity of it, and we decided to put it all together. So we're hiring people that have been in the industry in every discipline for the past 20, 30 years. We combine it with technology, with a younger mindset, and just the full throttle to keep going, right? So we're in Eastlake. This is the main office here. We have close to 150 employees. And the intent is to build a massive campus here and have thousands of employees and be the main office here. We do have other offices in Latin America, but that's the intent, to really help Chula Vista be different and see and have people go, oh, wow, there's a huge, massive tech company that's building something that is helping nationwide, not just in San Diego. And so that's the goal.
Fantastic. Congratulations. And Ammar, congratulations to you. You won the primary and you're on your way to be the next mayor of Chula Vista. So tell us about what that's been like. And
Yeah, we've had a lot of success since we last saw each other. I even put on a suit for you this time. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm glad. We were just talking about this, trying to bring it outside in the wild, do this 3-in-1. And thank you to Rick for opening your place. Thank you, Jill. She had a long night yesterday at the city council meeting, so thank you for being here. Joe's traveling around the country and the world trying to sell this business and promote what he's doing, not just trying, but actually doing it. And I'm really excited to meet you because every time I go down 3rd Avenue, I see the shop and I hear music blaring and I have no idea what it is. I'm like, is this an ice cream shop or a restaurant? Or but it's all the above. Maybe it's 3-in-1, which is why this place is called that, by the way. So yeah, I'm running for mayor of Chula Vista. I live just across the street here. Grew up in West Chula Vista, live in East Chula Vista. I understand that disparity. And I'd like to take a crack at that question about small businesses declining. It's not unique to Chula Vista. It's nationwide. It's global, right? So I wouldn't place it on the shoulders of anybody in particular in Chula Vista. What I do think is unique about Chula Vista that contributed to that is that Chula Vista is the workforce of the entire county. And so we had a higher rate of infections compared to other parts of the county, despite the leadership that we saw from folks like Joe Galvez and Mayor Mary Salas, who really stepped up and stepped in and really helped mitigate the worst calamities of the pandemic. But notwithstanding that, Chula Vista is Chula Vista. We are the county's workforce. So we saw a lot of the pandemic come into our community. And you've seen this shift during the pandemic. It's changing now, but people were investing more in goods and less in services. They weren't going to restaurants and barbershops. They were going on Amazon and Postmates. So that was just a function of what was happening during the pandemic with things being closed down, the restrictions. I think in hindsight, we realized that they were kind of cumbersome, and that's not just in Chula Vista, that's nationwide. I think Chula Vista led in a way that if the nation did, we would have been in a better footing nationwide. And also, you had the great resignation. 40% of the workforce left the workforce and retooled and became self-employed or joined the gig economy. So I think a confluence of different events, both the public health crisis and the lagging economic aspects as well, contributed to that. But I think Chula Vista is bouncing back. If you see, Third Avenue, there are businesses that opened in the eye of the hurricane during the pandemic. So yes, some businesses fell behind, but there were new ones that emerged in their place, and they're employing people. They're making, raising revenue for our city. They're paying taxes, providing services. So I think we're going to walk away from this pandemic, this post-pandemic economy that I think we're beginning to see the beginnings of, and find a way to do the economy differently, right? And I really do think that Chula Vista in particular is on the precipice of great change, right? We just broke ground on the Bayfront a month ago. We're in serious talks about a university again. There's some news coming up about the final developments of a stadium, which I don't know if I'm getting ahead of the councilwoman on that one, but Ammar told me a little bit, and I think you guys are announcing it soon. So hopefully by the time this is released, it's already told by everybody. And there's a lot of great stories to be told about Chula Vista, and I think a lot of businesses were suffering, and Rick could speak to this better than I can, because it was hard to find people to even want to work, right, given what was going on in the pandemic. So I think that's a little bit of why we experienced
So
that.
it sounds like Chula Vista is a promising place
Yeah.
for anyone to want to come start a business. Although the numbers may have declined, but you could also say that only means that there's more opportunities for people to want to start a business.
Right.
That's just a different angle to it.
Right.
But certainly the needs are here, it sounds like, and looks like it's looking pretty darn good around here.
I think so.
So Rick, thank you for opening your restaurant for us. This is a really, really cool place. Tell us about 3 and 1. What is it? How did it come about? And what's been your journey like as a local business owner?
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming in this morning. And it's a pleasure to, some new friends that I've met, and Ammar that's been here several times. First off, I live in the city of Chula Vista. I've been here for 20 years. I raised 2 boys that went through the Chula Vista school system and graduated from Eastlake High School. And I love Chula Vista. I've developed a home here, and that was my goal. I born and raised in New York, and I grew up in a very family-orientated community, a place where I went to elementary school and middle school and high school, and I wanted to raise a family. And looking around San Diego County, as my wife and I got married, and we wanted to find an area to build a family relation, have a relationship with the community and build our family around. Chula Vista was attractive. It was reasonably priced, and it was a neat community. I loved the fact that it was multicultural. I loved the fact that we were so close to Mexico, and there was a great diversity here. And we did just that. And everything is hard, of course, but we wanted to do that. My wife had a steady job, and I said, well, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, which was not a part of the plan, but it was an idea, and it happened. I started my first business in Chula Vista back in 2003, 2004, after we moved here, and we just grew from there. And I always wanted to have a neighborhood bar. I grew up in it in New York. I went to the same bar restaurant that my uncles would go to and my cousins would go to. And when I became of age, I couldn't wait to go there. And I knew the bartenders, and I wanted that. I felt that this community really screamed for that out here in the Eastlake area specifically, because what they're doing on 3rd Avenue is fantastic. I mean, in my hometown in New York, we had the Village. In Chula Vista, what do we have? We have 3rd Avenue. And I love it. My wife and I go down there. It's fantastic to walk around. It is so awesome.
In Eastlake, we got 3 and 1.
And, yes. And Eastlake's got some other great businesses
Oh, yeah.
besides just 3-in-1.
But
and
3-in-1.
and we enjoy it. So I wanted to open up that community, that neighborhood bar, that sports bar, and it was it's been a interesting journey. Of course, nobody predicted 2020, and I don't think there's a business plan out there from 2018 or 2019 that had that in there, but it happened. So we move forward. We roll on, and if it's easy. It's not that I hate that phrase, everyone can do it, because I think everyone can do whatever they really want to do and put their mindset to. I think some of the hardest things about the business aspect, whether you're in any city across this great country, is determination. You have to stay positive, because there is going to be a lot of negative that is thrown at you, and there is going to be obstacles. But everything is available, and you always have resources and help. And one of the things that City of Chula Vista, though there are frustrating things as a business owner with applying for permits and asking, well, why is this the way it is? Or why is it taking so long? Is I look at the other aspects. There's a lot of resources and help available. And it's there. You have to work for it, and you might have to wait in some lines, and you might have to sit and wait to get what you need. But it is there, and it can be done. And we have some business owners on this panel, and we've all met business owners that are here. So when somebody asks me, hey, how do you like the area that you're in? I'm thinking about opening up whatever, a yoga studio or this or that. I tell them, where do you live? Oh, I just live here in Otay Ranch. Well, it's a really easy commute. Why wouldn't you want to develop within the city that you live? Be a part of that. Employ people. You're employing now, for myself in the restaurant business, I'm employing siblings and friends, kids, people that my sons have grown up with. And I love it. It's fantastic. And it also gives me that whole, it takes a village to raise a family, that ability to do that with young men and women in as they're developing. It's a stepping stone.
So break down the 3-in-1 for me. So I know one of the three is a restaurant. The second in the three is a bar. What's the third?
So we advertise it's a neighborhood bar for food, drink, and sports. But
All right,
I am an avid cigar enthusiast, and I love cigars. It's something that I'm passionate at. Most people hear of, the wine connoisseur. Well, that's what I do with cigars. And I started an informal group of majority men, but we do have women there available, of course, if they'd like to partake in it. South Bay Cigar Club. 5 people, 2 retired one retired state parole officer, 1 retired state CHP, but he wasn't CHP. He was state police. He worked in Parks and Recs and was in. We used to joke around with him and tell him it's really not that hard of a job to back up a motorhome. But he was a great guy. He was retired. Another person who was in the military and was a civilian. And we would get together and find a location that we could sit out on the patio and have a cigar. And that just grew more and more.
So there is a cigar lounge here at 3-in-1 for folks that
we have a
enjoy
full cigar shop
Okay.
and a cigar lounge available to enjoy.
So come on down to 3-in-1 if anybody want to enjoy a good cigar. This is the
When I
place to
first
be.
heard about 3-in-1, this used to be an Italian joint that my mom used to go to, and now this is more my vibe. But what's interesting is that when I heard 3-in-1, there's a lot of churches around here. I thought this is just another church. And in a way, it is for some people. There is something sacred about this place for people. It's a great spot. I love this place. And I think it's unique because I've talked to my friends about this. I'm like, where can you find a place that literally can be 3-in-1 that could work in places other than Chula Vista, right? There's something unique about Chula Vista where it's a niche thing, right? Where you have cigars and you have a bar and then you have a restaurant where there's kids and there's families and they're completely separated, right? And it's a unique thing that could only happen here because unfortunately there's not that much competition for what's going on here, right?
To that point, can I jump in?
Yeah,
and
please.
Just applaud,
Yeah.
this particular business, and it's very similar to Erick's business, the hair on 3rd Avenue, in that this is a networking place, and And I've been in Chula Vista for about 30 years, and I live on the west side lived on the west side the entire time. And the east side view of the west, I'm sorry, the west side view of the east side has been one of, boy, those folks have an additional 20, 30 minutes a day that they're commuting. And that's less time spent with their families. And we would view this side as being more, the folks just on the freeways all the time with not a whole lot of spare time to get to know one another the way we enjoyed. And so when I first was made aware of 3-in-1 and I came out here, and actually I tried to come up a few times, but it was packed. It was literally packed, not a seat available. It really made me happy to see neighbors enjoying the company of neighbors, of business people or entrepreneurs, talking about their challenges, networking opportunities, mentorship opportunities. This is socialization at its finest, and that neighborhood bar concept is key. This isn't a place to come and just drink as much as you can and forget your problems. This is a place to come and meet and converse and take your time and listen to what other people have to say and enjoy life and maybe come up with innovative and creative new ideas for your next business.
So Rick, it sounds like I think it's time for you to create a jingle around 3-in-1. I think it.
Do you want to hear me
sounds
sing?
Cheers.
So thank you, Councilwoman Jill. Thank you. And yes, I of course, if you're not into having a cigar, it's not necessary to come into the cigar lounge. But if you do, or ever want to sit down, it really represents the city of Chula Vista and the diversity you have here.
Right.
Well, as we know, we have this phenomenal military and a great law enforcement, and our services such as fire and nurse and all those. In the cigar lounge, you can sit next to the next mayor of Chula Vista, next to a tech entrepreneur, a small business owner, and across from you, you have a 30-year retired military person. Or next to that, you have a lieutenant in the police force. And they don't know each other. And then all of a sudden, they sit down, they share a cigar, and it's a story.
That's the
And then
networking, I think, element that Jill was
Right.
talking
It
about.
is
Bring people
100%.
together. Yeah.
Bringing people together that no necessarily would not meet at a bar or sit down. And I can't speak for the barbershop. If you take a look at me, obviously I don't get very good haircuts and beards.
They'll give you a discount.
So I cannot have you meet my wife because she will shove me to that chair. But I would assume it's very similar
It
to the
is
same
very
thing.
similar.
And
It's
that's
very
a
similar.
big part of the success of the businesses. And anything that you do. Obviously, bringing upon more jobs to this wonderful city is key, and giving people employment gives them the opportunity to live here and do that. But yeah, it's
Let
a
me go
networking
to
thing.
downtown 3rd Avenue. I know there's a lot going on. There's revitalization going on. So from your perspective, because you were there before all this, what do you see in different? What's exciting about it? How has it impacted your business? And what else can you share about? There's a lot of momentum that's building, a lot of talk going on about what's going on in downtown Chula Vista. So share with us your thoughts.
Yes. So yeah, I think a lot of the things that have changed is it's becoming a destination place. People want to go there. People are walking their dogs. Every time I see somebody walking their dog, I'm like, okay, this is becoming a good place where people just want to hang out. And so when they're hanging out, they visit the different businesses that are there. I was there through the construction and making it more pedestrian friendly. And that was rough, but now I see the fruits of that, and everything worth fighting for is going to be an uphill battle, and it has been. So now to see the different businesses open up, it's cool. We benefit from each other. We funnel the same people through our doors. We talk about the other businesses, the other coffee shops, everything that's going on. And so there's a momentum going on. And, the murals that are happening and council member Jill was just sharing some of the cool stuff that her projects. It just fills my heart to know that there's still effort being put into 3rd Avenue because it becomes like a model for like Chula Vista as a whole. So, seeing pre where we are right now to see where we are today is day and night. And so, like I said, people were so excited about me opening up a barbershop, me being 26 years old, not knowing what the heck I was doing, and people were just like cheering me on in the community, saying, "Oh, this is what we need." I was like, "Really? Somebody to cut hair? This is what you needed?" Now I understand, right? As time has passed by, I understand people want community. People want a place where they can hang out, listen to music. We have our music playing all the time, and just people love that. It's just a vibe that it creates. People are excited about it. And so as we continue to pour more ideas into it, and people are being just purposely about it, I think it's going to continue to develop. And just Chula Vista as a whole becomes a place where people want to be. I live 3 minutes away from here. My kids go to school here. We dine here. We have a couple businesses here now with the ice cream shop coming in. Claudia shared one time, like, this used to be an ice cream shop before, Eric. I was like, I know, I've heard. I used to come here when I was in high school. And that just it just did something to me because it creates memories. At the end of the day, we're working hard. We put our head down, but our family benefit from all that. You know what I'm saying? It's something bigger than just having a small business. I met Max in my chair. I've met a lot of cool people, and I get to sit down with a lot of cool people now because of the opportunity. So, yes, circling back to your first question, it's like a lot of people lost their businesses, and it's hard owning a small business. It takes a different set of just everything, mindset and discipline and sacrifices. But if you stick through it, you'll benefit. I grew up with lack of opportunities. I felt being an immigrant. I was born in Guatemala. I came out here, and just my status and just everything about it was so hard. Even though I'm Latino, it was hard to even come in with my neighbors. In Mexico, they didn't accept me at times. And now being in Chula Vista, I love who I am. My identity. I love to say I'm from Guatemala. I love to say I'm an immigrant. I love to say I grew up in the hood, and a kid from the hood gets to see with cool people like this. This is awesome. And so I think it's hard. Business is hard, but the opportunities are there if you fight for it. If you're willing to go through it. And so Third Avenue is just that. It's just a model of like, and if you work hard and you're willing to work through it. Opportunities. I tell people I made everything that I have. I thank God I was able to buy a house and everything. I did it all behind a barber chair. I've opened up, and Max knows he did some business consultation for me. I've opened up 9 businesses in the last 10, 11 years, and so the American dream as well. American dream is happening.
Erick,
so
how
I'm
many
excited
people
about
do
that.
you employ between all your businesses?
So right now we have about 25, but there was a point where we had about 50 people, and I didn't realize. I'll be honest. I grew up in the hood where community wasn't a thing. It was just everybody for themselves, and through these experiences and opportunities over different businesses, I've realized oh my God, it's just not benefiting me. It's benefiting everybody in their family that works in this barbershop, that works in the different businesses that I've owned, and so. It's just it continues to be something bigger than me, than the barbershop, than the ice cream shop. It just becomes a community thing. So I'm excited to be part of Chula Vista and what's happening, and just to know the projects that are happening. It's okay, cool. We're in the right place.
Energy. Love your energy. So let me switch gear here a little bit, and I'm sure all of you have heard this, whether you experienced it as a business owner or you've heard it from other people. City of Chula Vista, much like other cities, there is a permitting process if you want to open up a business, right? And there are good reasons for that. But as a current council member and as future mayor of Chula Vista, Ammar, what is it that you can do or can be done to streamline that process so that more and more people would be as excited as Erick to want to come and set up business in Chula? Can anything be done? What ideas do you have around it?
Well, first of all, you look at Joe's business, and you see that he's done it. He's done it with the ADUs. And when I was at IBM back 30 years ago, I helped write a little computer program that automated defense contracting procedures. And a little company that you might have heard of called TurboTax automated tax filings and made it intuitive. It's very important, I think, that the city really takes a hard look at the repetitive nature of the permitting process and applies data technology to that. When I first came on council, I had the privilege of meeting the director of the UCSD Data Architecture School, the master's program, and she offered students to come and intern and help automate processes. And we haven't gotten that off the ground. That's something, actually, I'm glad Ammar's here, because that's something I'll bend his ear about when he's the next mayor of Chula Vista, because I do think that that we could relook at the data that's collected every step of the way. That's very important during the permitting process, and apply information technology to it in an intuitive way that makes it pretty easy for the end user to get through
Well,
the
it sounds like
project.
there's some opportunities just by incorporating technology into the permitting process
betcha.
can, in fact,
But also reaching out.
expedite the process.
So,
Yeah.
so our city, we're structured. We have 4 council members. So, it's a big job, and I work a lot. But this is my passion, and hopefully, I can assure you, my colleagues feel the same way. And anyone that does this type of job, it's got to be a passion for them. Reach out to that person, and if you don't understand the why, talk it through. So last night I was driving, rushing from picking up a prescription pair of glasses to get to the council meeting on time, and I had a decent conversation with a small business owner on Broadway that started the conversation feeling as though her business was being discriminated against because of their racial identity or whatever the case may be. And we stepped it all back and we unwound the problem. And I explained why certain rules are in place, but then also explained what could be done if you look at something through a different light. And I'm pretty confident we're resolving her problem. And this is less than 24 hours after
Amazing.
it was presented. And it takes just a conversation with her, a translation into human speak, what business codes are about and why they're there, and then also to see how humans can either apply those codes or not, because there is some discretion with some aspects of permitting, and then circle back and make sure that you put a pin in it, and so that business owner can feel as though their situation's been resolved and they can actually do what their business is.
So, Joe, you've actually built an entire business around systems and processes and streamlining. So I'd love to hear your thought. And then Ammar, as the future mayor of Chula Vista, I'm sure you've been given this feedback. In order to attract more businesses to Chula Vista, we really have to make this a more business-friendly city. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, your ideas on that. But let's start with Joe, maybe a couple of minutes on how did you go about streamlining a process that typically would take months, if not years, but into something that's faster, quicker, and obviously it's worked well in your business.
I mean, it could always go faster still, right? We still have a long way to go, but it's all about trying to find patterns, right? You understand how the city functions, and then you understand what they're looking for, and then you just try to create the patterns to go, okay, this is what they're going to ask for, this is what they're going to need, and then it does help that you have a lot of case studies, so then you just use that and apply that, and then theoretically you will end up doing it with technology. One of the things we do is when we go out to a home, we actually scan the home and we create a digital twin of the home. Just like when you go to the doctor and you get your vitals, right? And then the doctor looks at that and then all his experience that he has. If you think about it, there's no data with real estate. And so it's It's proprietary software. We're creating hardware, and we actually scan a home underground, behind walls, the whole thing. So with that, we can then connect everything else as you go when you design and the whole thing. So if we're able to, in the future, work with a city like Chula Vista, where it's our backyard, we could create some pretty cool stuff where we could actually integrate it directly to the actual digital twin, and so it can streamline things much faster as you go, right? And so from our end, we're trying to do everything we can to try to be ahead of things and be more proactive instead of reactive, so consumers can understand, okay, well, this is what's going to happen, this is what's next, this is why, etc. And when you think about Uber, when they started, actually Uber wasn't faster than taxis. The only reason why it seemed that they were is because it was transparent, and you would see that, okay, someone's going to pick me up in 15 minutes, so you'll get another cigar or finish the cigar before you leave, right? Instead of, if you order a taxi, you're going to be out there waiting and not knowing when it's going to arrive or not, right? And so it gives you that transparency of like, oh, okay, it's faster, right? So basically that's what we've been doing, trying to bring the transparency to the whole process. And then with virtual reality and everything we do, you could actually build your construction in VR, and you could actually walk in and feel the space and the whole thing. So all those little things that we do, it just brings that sense of streamlining the process, even though it's not as fast as I would want it to be.
So as an entrepreneur, obviously, you've built your entire business model around efficiency. So I think there's some lessons to be learned in the private sector. So Ammar, what lessons or what processes do you feel that we can learn from the private sector that you can implement in the government sector so that things can happen a little faster, and hopefully that'll encourage more people to want to open up a business?
Yeah. So, I worked at the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and as an executive, and we represented 4 million Hispanic businesses like the ones who are here today that contribute over $1 trillion a year to the economy. And they are very efficient. They grow at 3 times the national average. They've figured out all the different challenges they face, the lack of institutional financial support as immigrants to this country, or the lack of access to credit capital and contracts. And we figured out a way to help them bid and compete, and get procurement opportunities with bigger corporations. And I think the best way to streamline this process and make it more pro-business is to bring those businesses into City Hall, into our chambers, and bring them on board as advisors, right? Create an advisory task force. So we're not just giving lip service, but we're having a dialogue on what are the things we need to do to streamline. I've talked to business owners who said, look, like, I understand all the rules and the fees and all these things we have to do, but some of it is prohibitive for a small business owner. Maybe a big business could do all this stuff, but by the time we even get started, we're done, or we're out of cash. So can we defer certain payments so we could get on the ground, get the brick and mortar up, and then start paying down those obligations that we have? So there's small incentives, financial techniques, small adjustments that could really make a difference between a business starting or never starting, right? The other thing is, I think that we are operating as I talked to the city manager, Maria, who I quite like, and she told me, we have some of the best staff in the county, and a marker for that is the retention rate. People don't stay usually in these capacities for a long time, but we have folks who've been around for 25, 30 years because they love this city, and they could have gotten paid better anywhere else. But they love this city. They're passionate about this city. They kept the faith, just like many of you who could have gone somewhere else, but you stuck with it. And they said, look, there's one person is doing 10 different jobs, and they're over leveraged. They have too much going on. So some of it, we're gonna have to look and see, are we gonna have to, efficiency through technology, but also some personnel adjustments. And to streamline and expedite some of the things that these business owners need. And then I also think that there's a perception issue. We have an image issue in Chula Vista that kind of gets in the way of our potential. And, south of the 8, we're just seen as, Chula Vista is seen as Chulawana. Nothing wrong with Tijuana, but we have our own identity. We're not National City. We're not San Isidro. We have our own spirit, our own culture, our own history.
Well, if I may jump, I can tell you, if there was an image problem, you all debunked that.
That's right.
That idea today, because if I was in the audience right now, I would be ready to go open up a business.
Exactly.
In
There's
Chula
no
Vista,
place like
so,
home.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and people don't know this. Chula Vista as a population is larger than Salt Lake City, larger than Buffalo, New York, larger than Kansas City. It's about the size of Newark. It's close to becoming the size of Cincinnati. We're not a small city. We're a big city with everything from the water to the mountains. We have the county's workforce. We have a binational business community where the executives live in this town and work south and north of where we live. And there's so much. We have 400 acres of land for a university that's waiting to happen. We have the biggest bayfront in the western seaboard that's about to open up. We're 7 miles away from the border, if that. We have everything that you need to make Chula Vista a world-class destination. We just need to promote that. We need to be outward facing and say, hey, come in. And maybe Google would come here, or the next Google will be started right here in Chula Vista. So that's what we need to do. We need to create more anchors. Millennia, which is not too far from here, the vision was to it's supposed to be innovative and create industry. I can't think of one, maybe I don't remember, but is there one major industry out there? Yeah, so it's kind of heartbreaking. We're a bedroom community with so much business potential, but we're a bedroom community with a housing problem. So it's like, how are we going to get out of this? And it's going to be businesses like Joe's meeting at businesses like Rick's with executives who just got their haircut from your place, looking fresh, and meeting with people like me and Jill to solve our city's problems.
And Max can help find that commercial real estate.
That's right.
That's a good segue to Max.
That's
Commercial
right.
real estate business.
Well, I as much as I'm enjoying this conversation, we're out of time. But thank you all for being here, to our business owners for sharing your vision, your passion. As I said, if I was a few years younger, I would want to do this all over again. And then to Councilmember Galvez and Ammar, or the future of Chula Vista, thank you for sharing your vision, and Councilmember Galvez for the work that you do. So again, we're out of time. We hope you enjoyed this. And if you want to find out more about 3-on-1 in the city of Chula Vista, look it up. Multitasker, if you're building an ADU, it sounds like it doesn't have to take a year or two. And if you're just looking for that really nice haircut and that delicious ice cream, you know where to find it, downtown 3rd Avenue. So thank you for watching. We appreciate you being here. Until next time. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.